What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Fantasy Files Podcast, the podcast that wastes hours of your life that you're never getting back. Today, I am your lone host. I am supposed to be joined by Gabe, but he is on his way back from vacation and stuck in traffic. He texted me a couple hours ago saying, man, I'm trying so hard to get there, but today is crazy with we're recording this on 4th of July weekend, so if you're in the States, you know how crazy travel can be around that time. So he's trying to get here, so we may see him pop in a little bit later, but I am lucky enough to be joined by Felix Blackwell, the author of Stolen Tongues. Welcome, Felix. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, thank you for inviting me.
I've been looking forward to this, and I'm gonna put links to your books down in the description so that people can check that out. And if anybody's interested, links for our Twitter and Discord and Patreon are gonna be on there too. If you'd like to support us on Patreon, it's super cheap, and you get to see these episodes live as we record them, and you can hop in the chat and ask questions. So when we have an author on, you can ask some of your favorite questions about their books that maybe we're forgetting to ask or something. So it's definitely worth it to support us over there if you're so inclined. But with that, we are going to get right into the episode. I have so many fun topics and questions for Felix. But yeah, welcome to the show, man. Thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah, thank you. I really enjoyed a couple of your episodes, and I was happy to be invited.
Yeah, I'm curious. So I think we read Stolen Tongues, I think a couple of years ago. It was like a couple of it was we've done it for two Halloween episodes, so I think it was two Halloweens ago. And we absolutely loved it, made episodes on it, kind of put those out into the world. And usually, when we really enjoy a book, we try to do everything we can to get the author on. Usually, it's through Twitter. We'll look them up on Twitter and we'll tag them in a post and just be like, hey, I know you're a super famous author and you're probably busy, but if you'd like to come talk on our podcast, let us know. And we've had some really cool authors on before, or sometimes we'll reach out to their PR person through whatever publishing house that they're a part of. We've had some luck doing that, but I couldn't find you anywhere.
Yeah, that was during the period where I stepped away from social media for a year
Sure.
after publishing Church Beneath the Roots.
Yeah.
I had a lot of family stuff going on and mental health stuff going on, and I
Yeah.
needed a break. So
Yeah,
sorry about that.
I think no, it's fine. I think we all do sometimes. I wish that I didn't have to use social media at all. I
Yeah,
I got rid of my got rid of my personal social media. I it's still out there. I just don't ever log into it.
same.
But yeah, I the only social media that I'm really on is the Fantasy Files Twitter account, just because that's how we do so much of our interactions, right?
Right.
And I wish that I didn't even have to do that, because there are some days. Last night there was something, I forget what it was, but I had gotten home from work and I'm super tired, and I'm just gonna doom scroll Twitter for 15 minutes before I start up a video game for another 30 minutes and then go to bed.
Yeah, yeah.
And there was something on Twitter that got me so mad. I was just seeing red, and I was like, I just can't believe that there are people out there that are this stupid and
Yeah.
ridiculous, and there gets to a point where you're seeing enough of this and it's having an impact on your own mental health. And there's this thing that I do where I shut my eyes and I know exactly, I move my cursor to the top right of the screen and I just
Mhm.
click so that so that it X's it out, because
Yeah.
I just know I'm they're reading it, I can't draw myself away because it's so addicting. And so I just have to close my eyes, move the cursor up there, and just click out of it, and then go into a video game or whatever I'm gonna do.
It's
Because
crazy. We are all so addicted to it, and I I have a lot to say about all of that too.
yeah,
and I'll try to make it as concise as possible. But yeah,
Sure.
I mean, you're 33, right?
Yeah.
So do you were you born in the time before social media? Like,
Oh
were you
yeah.
using it? Your okay,
Oh
yeah.
yeah.
So I'm a little bit older than you, and I remember what life was like
Yeah.
before MySpace and Facebook and TikTok and whatever all the other ones are. Instagram. I've never even had an Instagram.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
I've never had WhatsApp or Snapchat or any of that stuff,
Mm.
but I had a
Yeah.
Facebook, and
Yeah.
um, I I just every single friendship, every relationship with every family member just became strained at some point for some
Yeah.
political reason, or
Hmm.
the way that we behave differently on social media because we suddenly care about what strangers think. And
Sure.
um, I I'm like exiled from one half of my family because
Mm.
they're extremely political on the opposite
Sure.
end of the spectrum that I am,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I just kept seeing everybody, including myself, devolve into a less healthy state of mind. And so,
Yeah.
um, during the writing of my last book, Church Beneath the Roots, the sequel, or actually, it's actually the prequel to Stolen
Hmm.
Tongues. Um, I was I was worrying so much about what people would think of it, and that's not
Yeah.
something that I thought about at all when I wrote Stolen Tongues, or any
Right.
of my other books. So I was really writing for my critics, and I think I got a great book out of it. I took everybody's advice, the criticisms that they had of Stolen Tongues, and
Yeah.
um, I think I grew a lot as a writer. But at the same time, I also, in some ways, kind of like broke myself, just worrying and tearing myself apart, thinking, "What are all these people going to think of me?" So I deactivated social media for a year, and then you came along and made me reactivate it. So
Oh,
yeah,
that's so great. Yeah, I think that, you know, I think there's merit to kind of looking inside and looking at, the criticism that other people have. I say on this podcast all the time, when because we do like these big, 2 hour long podcast episodes or whatever, but I also do like, 20-minute, 30-minute book reviews,
hmm,
and I'm a pretty harsh critic. I look at books. I books are my life. Like, I enjoy books to the nth degree.
yeah,
And part of the way that I really get joy out of reading is looking at it through a critical lens and being like, you know, what parts of this book are extremely good and what parts are extremely bad. Because I think when you, or not like extremely bad, but like, what parts could be like worked on, because I think there's like an honesty to that critical reception. And I hope I when I do my reviews, I say it in a way where it's not just like harping on a book or harping on an author, but like, how can we look at this critically through as like balanced of a lens as we possibly can.
yeah,
And I've often said in videos, like, I hope that, when authors see those reviews, I hope that criticism helps, because I'm a fan. Like, I'm their biggest fan.
right,
And so I hope sometimes that critical reception is able to help in their craft and everything. But I also think that there is a point where as as we're on social media, and as we're kind of we're in this internet age, we're a people of the internet. I think there is a point where you can read too much criticism, and it can almost hamper what you were doing well before, if that makes sense. Like you could be doing really, really, really well, but then hear a couple like outlying critics, like maybe like the vocal minority,
yeah,
and it can really like send you into a tailspin. And so
oh
I've
yeah,
I've had to do that for my I've had to do that for myself, where I you know we get criticism on the podcast, and some of it I look at and I'm like, no, you're right. Like, I could make the episodes more concise, or I could do have my notes like organized better or whatever, and look at those kind of things. And then there's other people that are like, why does his left eye look a different way than his other eye? It's like,
Right.
I don't know. I was born like it. So, so
Yeah.
some some critical reception, like you kind of just gotta shrug off, and then sometimes it's worth just getting off the internet for a while. Sometimes
You
it
know,
really is.
yeah, so my personality, I tend to kind of overcorrect um
Mm-hmm.
with criticism. If my wife says like, "Hey, can you, help with the dishes more or something or vacuum more often?" I'll like do way
To
too
go
much of that.
hardcore.
Yeah, so with some of the criticisms of one of my books, I really tried to like do the opposite in Church
Mm,
Beneath the Roots of the things that critics thought I did wrong in Stolen Tongues, but I went
mm,
so far that I almost became like a different author, I feel
mm.
like. And it's fun to stretch your voice and try on different
Yeah.
hats as a writer, but it's there's also the dark side of criticism where the
Mm,
longer that I once heard somebody say this, I never forgot it, but the longer you spend on the internet, the more likely it is somebody will advise you to kill yourself. And
mm.
I feel like if you've ever played an online video game,
Oh
that's happened to
yeah.
you, or like if you write books, if you make music, there's always somebody out there who just absolutely hates your guts.
Right.
And I did encounter some of that. I've gotten some emails from people that were fucking crazy,
Mm-hmm.
which is, by the way, I apologize for not sharing my face on here,
Oh,
but
you're fine.
several years ago, I made the mistake when I first started out as a writer of like having myself and my partner in an interview, and because
Mm-hmm.
it was Stolen Tongues is about Faye, and
Mm.
she's a real person, and we ended up getting some creepy comments on YouTube from two people that found her attractive, and then they
Oh
took it too
wow.
far. They found my personal email, and then they found like my LinkedIn, and then they found like all this stuff.
Whoa.
And yeah, it was crazy. So now I've realized that being a celebrity in any capacity, even in the small capacity
Yeah.
in which I have it, is not something I'm super comfortable with. I'd rather have people just know me for my writing at this point.
Sure.
So, um,
Yeah. Yeah, that's totally fair. I think, when you when you encounter something like that, it can be really, really scary. And, in the past year, maybe like maybe a little over a year ago now, we added our fourth co-host, Sam, and she is a lady. And when she first came on as a regular co-host, we were getting like really creepy comments from some
uh,
guys, and I'm the one that like manages the kind of the back end of the YouTube, like actually
yeah,
posting stuff and responding to comments and whatnot. Um, and I could not believe how many comments I had to field just from having a female co-host.
oh my
and
god, yeah.
and it's like I'm like, is this what women deal with on the internet on a daily basis? Like, this is
I think
crazy.
the answer is yes. Yeah. Oh shit. Yeah, I
uh,
think the well, I think this medium of communication really lends to us dehumanizing each other. People just
yeah,
forget that they're not talking to an avatar or to text on a screen. They're talking to a real human, unless,
right.
of course, they're on Twitter and they're arguing with a fucking bot,
I
and they
know.
think
Yeah.
it's a real person. Um, but which is another related problem of social media, right?
Right.
But yeah, man, I'm sorry to hear that. That really sucks.
Yeah, it was crazy for a while, and some eventually they just kind of went away, which was nice.
Yeah.
But at first, when it was like a new thing, it was really bizarre. I was like, oh wow. And then of course I'm in the weird position of like, would she want me to like tell her about this, or should I just like delete these comments or what? And so that was like a really weird position to be in.
Yeah.
Um, and so yeah. Anyways, let's talk about books. I want to. So I wanted to ask you when so you commented on one of our videos. I think it was the Church Beneath the Roots video that
Yeah.
we did, and you had just said, and this is after. I think this is kind of what I was getting at earlier. Is this is after me kind of looking for you to find a way to get you on the podcast. And you just like, I just opened up YouTube one day and there's Felix Blackwell. And I was just like, oh my God, like, holy crap, here he is. And you had commented and said, hey, my friend sent me this discussion. I really enjoyed it. And it was this moment for me where I was like, oh my God, here's the guy. Like, holy
Yeah.
crap. So that was so cool. So thank you so much for commenting on that video, because that made all of our day. I shared the comment with all the other co-hosts and everybody was freaking out.
Oh yeah. Well, I'm trying to remember I think it was one of my readers that sent me that link, but
Oh,
I was really
sweet.
excited to see it because there is so much analysis of Stolen Tongues, but
Mm-hmm.
there's not yet a whole lot of analysis of Church Beneath the Roots. And
Mm.
you guys picked up on some really interesting things that I had kind of buried in there or layered in.
Really?
Yeah, I was impressed by the depth of the analysis, and
Oh,
yeah. So
that makes me so happy. That's
yeah.
awesome.
And
Yeah,
by the way, oh, I'm
yeah.
sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, can I do the guessing game of some of the books that you've got behind you there?
Oh, yes, please do.
Okay. All right. I think I see the hardcover set of Harry Potter.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. I think I see the Fall of Gondolin and the Silmarillion.
Nope.
Oh, okay. All right. Then I don't know if I'm looking at Tolkien or Robert Jordan or
Robert Jordan.
okay, and then some Sanderson on the top left.
Yes. Yep.
Okay, I think that's all I recognize.
Okay. Yeah,
Not
yeah,
bad.
I got my my Harry Potter shelf, and then up at the top I have all of my special editions. So I have the special UK edition of The Devils by Joe Abercrombie.
Okay,
I
nice.
have my leather bound of the Threadlight trilogy. I have uh, not Strength of the Few, Will of the Many special edition, and then
Nice.
the Harry Potter illustrated special editions. And then I have you ever read the Dresden Files? The top row here?
No, but I feel like somebody was just telling me I need to read that.
You need to read it. Imagine like Harry Potter grows up, but it's a lot more like gritty and dark. But it's still got a lot of humor. Harry Potter grows up and becomes like a private investigator in Chicago and has to solve like supernatural like mysteries
Yeah,
and stuff.
I
It's kind of like that.
I swear I was just holding Stormfront in the bookstore like 2 days
Oh,
ago. Yeah.
nice. Oh, that's
Um,
great.
and this is somebody was telling me like you have to read Stormfront specifically because of my interests. So I got to
Oh,
get on
okay.
that. I'm working on a
Okay.
whole bunch of other reading projects right now that I need to kind of like
Yeah.
get on with.
Oh man,
Um,
do you do audiobooks?
no, I can't. I have no attention
Oh,
span for
bummer.
audiobooks. Yeah,
Okay.
so I got to
Yeah.
physically read. I can't even do Kindle or e-reader. I have to do a
Oh.
physical book.
Oh wow. Okay. Okay.
So
Cool.
cool
Well,
collection though.
yeah. Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. I've been working on it for a while. Yeah.
I love that Harry Potter hardback set
Oh
specifically.
yeah, the Mina Lima.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's so good. I'm so addicted to them. They finally announced the release of the Goblet of Fire one. That's
Nice.
coming really soon, so I'm gonna get that day one.
Very cool.
Um, but yeah, so you reached out on YouTube. I was super happy to hear that you wanted to come on. Do you remember any specific, and it's okay, I don't want to put you on the spot, but do you remember any like specific talking points from the podcast that made you kind of perk up or anything?
Yeah, yeah, there was a lot of analysis on Pastor Voth's character
Hmm.
in Church Beneath the Roots, which he's probably my favorite character, him and Moya. Um, I really try to so I was just saying this to a author buddy of mine the other day, but when I first started writing, I I was very much like a setting author. I would
Huh.
think of a setting like, okay,
Okay.
here's a spooky forest in the mountains. I want to write a book about a spooky forest. Okay, but I need some people, right? So, okay,
Right.
well, here's three characters, and now I need a monster. Here's a monster. But I didn't really know how to like glue them all together with conflict and character arc very well.
Mm-hmm.
So I just wrote like, Stolen Tongues really, it's a first draft. It's unedited. It's a short story series that went viral on Reddit.
Mm-hmm.
It's not really a novel in the strictest sense. Like in a it's not crafted the way you should craft a novel. So in Church Beneath the Roots, I try to do the opposite. I started with characters,
Right.
character arcs, drama and conflict, and then the setting is a character itself. Even the mountain, I tried to write as much of a character as I could out of it. But
Yeah.
so you guys were doing some analysis on Pastor Voth, who is this. He's a Baptist minister on the mountain whose job it is to convert Indians and save their souls.
Yes, I remember this now. Yeah, yeah,
And he's, of course, got a dark past.
yeah.
And
Mm-hmm.
he comes off as a monster at first, and then we start to see the inner workings of his mind as the story goes on, and we see why he is the way he is, and the direction he wants to change in. And you all seem to pick up on that, which I found
Mm.
really impressive. And his conflict with Moya, who sort of represents the opposite. She's the traditionalist
Right.
indigenous person who absolutely hates the incursion of Christianity onto the reservation, and she's
Right.
worried about the slow death of her people's traditions and culture. And it was cool to hear other people express that level of interest in
Mm.
those two characters.
That's cool. Yeah, we had a lot of fun with that book. It was really interesting because and hearing you talk about it now, it makes a lot more sense. Church Beneath the Roots feels very different to Stolen Tongues, and it's
Yeah,
it's enjoyable for a fan of Stolen Tongues because it deals with the same, monster. It deals with the same kind of place. There's characters that we kind of get to see later in the Stolen Tongues, and there's things that connect the two. But as a whole, Church Beneath the Roots is a much more traditional
yeah,
story arc, basically. And Stolen Tongues is very it's very much like kind of vibes, I guess.
yeah.
Even so, I've listened to Stolen Tongues probably 3 times now, and I was just listening to the audiobook. Was it yesterday or the day before? And my God, it is so fucking scary. It is so. I'm gonna get back to Church Beneath the Roots, but I want to
Sure.
talk about this real quick. I have read hundreds and hundreds of books. Like, if you were to look at my Audible library, I've read 99% of what's in there, and I think I have like 296 books or something like that.
Nice.
And many of them are horror. I've tried a bunch of horror books. The only one that ever scared me besides Stolen Tongues was Bone White by Ronald Malfi.
Oh yeah,
Um,
Malfi is fucking great.
he's so good. He's so good. But something about Stolen Tongues just scared the piss out of me. And at the time when I first was reading it, or listening to it in the audiobook, I work in construction, and there's a lake over by me where there's all of these really isolated cabins. And I do live in a place where it snows a lot, and and so it's just me, and I'm like renovating this cabin out there that overlooks the water. No other house for like acres and acres. Like, it's on like a big piece of land where it's just me and this cabin and the lake and the wildlife. And I was there for a week or 2 weeks, and over that time I was listening to Stolen Tongues. And it was the perfect. I have never been more like skin crawling up my neck, like so fucking freaked out in my entire life listening to this book and actually being in a cabin by myself in the middle of nowhere in wintertime.
Damn.
Oh my God, it was the perfect experience.
I don't know if
But
I'd have the balls for that.
dude, it was it was throwing me into the deep end for sure. But
Nice.
and especially the narrator is so good. I want to talk about the narrator, but the guy that did that just, oh, chef's kiss. Um,
Oh, I'm
but
glad.
uh but yeah, so it was an amazing experience. And then I reread it for the podcast, and then I reread it the other day. And even the other day, I'm working in somebody's house. They're at their own job. It's just me in the house, like listening to this book and working. And there was a few moments where I'm, just kind of like, ooh, like, ooh,
Yeah.
there's just some creepy shit. And so I really just want to ask you, with there are some phenomenal horror writers out there that do a great job spinning a mystery and spinning a web, and I can read the book and look at it and say, this is scary, but not be scared. It's kind of
Right.
like the same thing as like someone telling you a joke and saying, that's funny, but you're not like rolling on the floor laughing, you
Right.
know? There's just a difference, right? And so I really want to know what makes Stolen Tongues different. Like this book, anytime you see it reviewed, the number one thing that's said about it is it's fucking scary. So how did you do it? Like,
Oh, yeah, it's so funny. Like I'm so removed from that book because of the fact that it was so long ago. It's almost 10 years old now. I think it's 8.5 years old now.
yeah.
Um, and the story is even older, the short story on Reddit.
Oh,
But
okay.
I I remember what I was trying to do at that time was I had come across No Sleep and I'd read some No Sleep stories, and I'd always been a fan of horror,
Mm,
but I had always been a kind of a writer. Like I didn't publish anything, but I wrote stuff. Um, and I wanted to know if I could scare modern audiences, knowing that they have already seen Hostel and
right,
they've the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. They've seen people get thrown into wood chippers in movies, and some of them have watched Faces of Death and all these like actual snuff films and shit from when we were
right.
kids. And how do you scare an audience like that? So
Yeah,
that was the question that I was asking myself when I went into writing that story. And the answer that I came up with is like, why don't I try to make it a really understated um,
yes.
monster? So you don't see him that much. You
Hmm.
just hear him babbling to himself outside.
Right,
Um, and then, you see flashes of him, but the big reveal is not really what's scary about him. Um, so
right.
I was having this conversation with a buddy of mine that I ended up co-authoring The Cold People with, which is a short story collection. And we came up with this hypothesis on horror called danger confusion. And
Hmm.
so Kill Bill, you ever seen the movie Kill Bill?
Long time ago.
Or Saving Private Ryan?
Yeah,
So both of those movies have blood and guts and death and destruction in them, but they're not horror films.
right.
Why is that? Right?
Hmm.
And I think the answer is because they don't engage with a sense of the macabre in a way that horror does, but more specifically, they there's no confusion about where the danger is coming from. Um,
Ooh,
you know,
yeah.
but in horror novels and horror films, the danger often comes from places that it's difficult to anticipate its nature. So
Right,
darkness conceals the nature of danger, right? And
right.
some, sometimes the danger is like it's a demon, but it's in a little girl, and little girls are
Yeah,
not supposed to be scary.
right.
So your brain has this weird, like, uncanny valley reaction to
Yes,
um, creatures and places that shouldn't be scary but are, right?
right.
So yeah, I came up with this monster that basically just behaves in a way that's very unexpected. Um,
Mm.
and at the same time, uh, my wife was working at a zoo where they had an African gray parrot, and this
Okay,
bird
yeah.
would like, yeah, would
Carrot the
talk to
parrot.
it. Carrot the parrot, yeah. Um, so this bird would like, it was mimicking people all the time, but which is an interesting thing.
Yeah.
Um, but it was also grumbling to itself and chattering and repeating things that it had heard other people say throughout the course of its life. But it was repeating them in a way that where it was clear that it didn't understand what it was saying. It was just
Mm.
saying smatterings of conversations, little snippets of things.
Right.
And so the monster that I came up with was basically a giant parrot.
Yeah.
It imitates humans, but it has no deeper understanding of why they behave the way they do and what the meaning behind what they say.
Right.
So that I think that's the answer.
Yeah, yeah, and that was kind of terrifying when you realize that the monster is learning more about Felix, and then when it can actually mimic Felix's voice,
Yeah.
that's when it gets really scary because it's like now the monster could go to Faye and mimic Felix's voice, or he could mimic Faye's voice to
Mhm.
Felix, as it does, a couple times.
Mhm.
Um, and there's also something scary about uh, when Faye starts to kind of get I don't know if possessed is the right word, but kind of, for lack of a better term, like
Sure.
she's like being possessed. And there's a part of what makes it scary is that this person that the character is so intimately familiar with is turning into something that he doesn't recognize, and is this person that he feels safe with and is comfortable around, that he sleeps in the same bed with,
Mhm.
is could suddenly do something crazy in the middle of the night and kill him, or like you feel on edge around this person now because they have this influence.
Yeah, that was another part of the concept of danger confusion. It's like a lot of horror movies and books, their goal is to make you afraid to be alone.
Mm,
You don't want to be alone in your house. You don't want to be alone in the woods. But with Stolen Tongues, I wanted people to be afraid to be with their partner or with
right,
somebody that they trust, because you're subverting the expectation that person has of their spouse, right?
right,
We don't sleep in a bed next to people that we think are going to try to kill us, but
right.
in this situation, that's exactly what happens. And because of that confusion, um, in that dynamic, I think that's why it was unsettling for people.
Yeah.
But I think the monster, like I said earlier, Stolen Tongues is like it's like an unorganized box of interesting ideas that are just not really well put together. The monster logic is somewhat inconsistent. The narrative is not great, but the
But
monster, I think,
I think that's okay though. That like I think it's okay that the monster is inconsistent
yeah,
because as the reader, you never know what it's gonna do. Like if like and here's kind of what I was getting at earlier with some of the other horror books that I've read. When you have a monster or a demon or whatever that you can figure out, you can kind of figure out the magic system, for lack of
mhm,
better term. Like you can
yeah,
figure out like the nuts and bolts and like how you're supposed to defeat them. Once you can do that, then it makes them really not that scary anymore, and it kind of turns it into an action movie,
mm,
where it's like, oh, we just needed the MacGuffin, or we needed to like you know, break apart the ancient burial site or whatever. Like once you have that, then it becomes less scary. But throughout Stolen Tongues, even on this last reread, I was like, I couldn't remember how they were able to get rid of the monster. When I
yeah,
even though I've read it 3 times, I was like, how did they do that again? And throughout the book, I was like, yeah, like how do you kill this thing? Because like the only way at the end of it, he breaks apart the dream catcher, and that doesn't do it.
Hmm.
And he tries all these other things. He tries sage, that kind of helps, but not really. And
Right.
at the end of the day, the only way that they could get rid of it was to make the monster not interested in them anymore.
Right.
and and that, I think, for me, like, that's what was so gripping, was this idea where it's like, yeah, we don't have like a concrete magic system for this monster. Like, we don't know like the nuts and bolts of it.
Yeah, I feel like I'm getting into spoiler territory, so
We could
maybe
spoil a little bit.
okay. I'll just say to anybody listening, definitely some major spoilers ahead right here.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so the imposter is like this big parrot, and what I mean by that is, yeah, I mean he copies what people say, and he imitates people, and he necessarily does a poor job of those things because he does not have a deeper understanding of the meaning behind the human behaviors and language.
Right.
He's a very surface level imitator. That's why he's the imposter, right?
Hmm.
But he does have one interesting ability, and that is that he seems to be able to read people's dreams.
Yes.
He detects when people are sleeping. He somehow connects with them through some kind of cosmic energy. Um, he can experience their dreams, and so he goes around kind of lurking outside of people's homes and outside of this reservation on Pale Peak, just sifting through people's dreams, looking for people that have interesting dreams.
Right.
And the things that interest him the most are when people have like subconscious, repressed trauma or pain or fears or whatever.
Right.
Um, he's ultimately a predator, and he wants to. He doesn't kill and eat people. He wants to do something else with them. He wants to take them somewhere, and we learn about that in The Church Beneath the Roots. But
Right.
as far as Stolen Tongues, he's looking for people that can be manipulated with their own dreams. He can, infest their dreams and communicate with them in the voices of the people that they are dreaming about. So in Faye's case, she's got this dead younger brother. She's very traumatized about his death. She's buried that trauma and has built a whole life on top of that buried trauma. And the imposter basically is aware that she has repressed the experience of his death. So
Hmm.
he starts digging at it. He wants to know everything about that trauma and about Christopher, the dead child.
Hmm.
Um, the way that they get rid of him is by essentially by Faye bringing that trauma up into her consciousness rather than
Hmm.
having it buried. And this point was it was missed by some readers. They couldn't really grok how Faye ended up getting rid of him, and I don't blame them
Hmm.
because it's the logic is somewhat inconsistent. But the point that I was trying to get across was um, the monster once Faye sort of accepted that she had buried all that trauma, and once she kind of brought Christopher back into her waking thoughts, he
Hmm.
could no longer manipulate her with her dreams because she wasn't dreaming about it anymore. She was thinking about it while she was awake. So he had no real way of like controlling her anymore. Um,
Right.
that was my idea for how to get rid of him. A lot of people found it anticlimactic, so I tried to give them the opposite in Church Beneath the Roots. You get this big bombastic ending, you know.
Sure, yeah. So
So,
let's talk about Church Beneath the Roots real quick. Because you mentioned earlier, you had gotten some criticism for Stolen Tongues, and then kind of tried to use that in Church Beneath the Roots, which, obviously, as a podcast, we also very much enjoyed. But it was like quite a different book from Stolen Tongues. So what were, uh, we, as a podcast, as the co-host, we could like sit back and kind of armchair quarterback, like, oh, it looks like these things are different. But for you as the author, what was different between the two?
do you mean like just in the storytelling, or do you mean in the process of writing it?
Yeah, like in the process of writing it, were you looking at it saying, okay, Stolen Tongues, like, like I want to give it, like you were saying earlier, like characters with like an arc
Right.
and all of these various little things. What kind of changed for you, and did you enjoy it more?
Yeah, so I Stolen Tongues is very much like a I'm just going to write whatever I think is cool sort of
Yeah,
project. And
right.
Church Beneath the Roots was very much like a by the books, this is what you learn in creative writing class in
Mm,
college kind of project.
okay.
Um, so a couple of those differences. In Stolen Tongues, the characters, Felix and Faye, do not really have like goals and motivations. They're sort of just victims of a plot that happens to them. Especially Faye, who really is kind of like a prop in some ways. She's asleep for half the book. A monster is possessing her body. So and I got blowback from that because that is the opposite of what a lot of readers perceive as like a strong female protagonist.
Oh, yeah.
So, and at the time, I was trained as a historian. I didn't know anything about storytelling, so I didn't mean to insult anybody, but I did. um,
Well,
uh,
here's the thing. I think, when people start criticizing stuff like that, it's like I just like really roll my eyes when because the at the end of the day, what you did with Stolen Tongues, like even if Stolen Tongues isn't a, you know, creative writing 101 kind
yeah,
of the way that it's like set up and everything, and even if like you're not like going down the checklist of, oh, got my, strong female protagonist, oh, make sure that, all these people are happy and everything.
right,
I Stolen Tongues, what you just said there, I think is so important because Stolen Tongues, you said, you were just writing what you think is cool,
yeah,
and that's how I just want to encourage you. That's how you ended up with like a super original, like creative book. That's been like the only book to really scare me,
yeah.
which is like a hard thing to do. So just I don't know what kind of criticism you've got or anything, but if you're ever feeling discouraged about that, please remember that Stolen Tongues is excellent for that reason.
Yeah, I appreciate that. No, it was a great process to get all the criticism and to learn how to like write Church Beneath the Roots in a different way because now I can do both, and that's what
Sure.
I'm doing now on current
Oh, great.
projects. But yeah, so Stolen Tongues, it was mostly like I thought of a cool monster. I wasn't following the rules of writing, and then in in Church Beneath the Roots, I started with character rather than with setting. So I started with like three characters and I wanted, or actually four, and I wanted them all to have conflict because conflict is like what moves a story forward. Um, and so I had to develop them with personalities and backgrounds and desires and shortcomings. And I even had like a list of their phobias and stuff like that.
Right.
Um, and then it is, if you have characters that are developed like that, the plot kind of naturally unspools from
Mm,
them. You can just
yeah.
sit there and go like, well, how are these? What would it be like for these two very different characters to just interact on a daily basis? Well,
Mm,
you can just imagine all the kinds of conflicts that you know.
right.
Um, so I did all that. I followed the rules. I made sure that I used like the 5-point structure, and
Hmm.
it's a very like structured project. You can
Yeah.
find the goals and motivations. You can find the major plot points in the climax and the denouement and all that stuff. But the really agonizing thing about writing Church Beneath the Roots was that I owed a lot of explanations for Stolen Tongues because of all those logical inconsistencies that I mentioned.
Sure.
So here I am trying to fucking explain the cellar of the
Yeah.
cabin, which I just threw the cellar in there in Stolen Tongues with no plan for what it would, and it
I
wasn't
was
anything.
I was wondering because even on this reread, he's having visions of the cellar, and I had read Church Beneath the Roots. I think it was last year, um, and I was I think I had gotten the two mixed up because in my head I was like, oh, at the end of Stolen Tongues, we return to the cellar, and that's like a whole thing. And then
Yeah.
I finished the book, and I was like, nope, we never went back to the cellar.
Yeah. Well, there's if okay, so if you read Stolen Tongues, you're gonna have a lot of unanswered questions like what were the dream catchers, what was the
That
seller,
was going to be my next question is what was the dream catcher?
yeah. So Church Beneath the Roots does answer all those questions, and it does answer what did the imposter want? Like it kills some people, but the people it really likes, it
Right.
takes them somewhere. Where does it take them?
Right.
And the answer is it takes them to the church beneath the roots.
Yeah.
So this is a
Which is a
cosmic horror.
crazy scene. Like
Yeah,
when our characters start going down there, it's like, what fucking
yeah.
acid trip did I just it's so
uh,
cool.
I
It's
was
so
listening to
good.
so much H.P. Lovecraft on my like morning
Oh
jogs.
man, I bet.
Um, yeah, I love cosmic horror, and I think I realized that after Stolen Tongues, I realized that is more of a cosmic horror novel than I thought it was.
Oh yeah.
So with Church Beneath the Roots, I just leaned really deeply into that. Like this is absolutely a cosmic horror mythos, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Dreamcatchers, I can tell you, but I
Yeah,
would
remind
be
me if I'm forgetting from Church Beneath the Roots, definitely remind me because I couldn't remember.
yeah, okay. So spoilers again for anybody
Hmm.
listening who hasn't read Church Beneath the
Church
Roots
Beneath
is
the
going to
Roots.
ruin something for you, but
Yep.
in Stolen Tongues, we see a lot of dream catchers, and they're really weird looking, and they're made from like mutilated
Hair.
animals. Yeah,
Yeah.
stolen pieces of property, like a wedding ring and all this stuff,
Right.
or an engagement ring. Well, we never figure out what they are. We're not in Stolen Tongues. We're not sure if they're like magical or if they're a ward to protect people from the imposter. We don't know if the imposter is making them.
Right.
Um,
And
and
destroying
then
it didn't seem to.
yeah, it doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
You can burn them, you can break them. It doesn't really seem to affect the plot.
Right.
Well, in Church Beneath the Roots, we find out, and again, spoilers.
Hmm.
We find out that the imposter is making them, and he is hanging them up in the woods. Um, but the imposter is a giant parrot, like I said, and he does not know what these things are that he's making,
Mm.
and he does not know what they are for. He doesn't know what they do. He certainly is not imbuing them with any magic or anything like that. What he's doing is mimicking a human practice.
Hmm.
Um, there is a subplot in the Church Beneath the Roots where essentially there's like a white couple that lives on the mountain, and they are they make dream catchers as part of like this like a small business where somebody's running a store or
Sure.
something.
Yeah.
They're not actually a part of the culture of the three native groups that live on the reservation. Those people don't make dream catchers, but somebody on the mountain is. And there's Pastor Voth, who is this Baptist minister who's tasked with destroying native culture and converting them to Christianity, save the Indian soul. That's his job, right? And
Right.
this is a lot of like historic roots. Um, so he really pisses off one of the traditionalists on the reservation, Carl Ortega,
Hmm.
and Carl is making a gift for his daughter's birthday. It's not a dream catcher; it's something else that is sacred to his people.
Hmm.
Um, so Pastor Voth destroys it, and he says, "We do not tolerate uh,
Right.
these idols that you're creating. These like savage idols," he calls them.
Yes, I remember
So
that.
Carl says, "I'll show you a savage idol," and he crafts this really disgusting dream catcher out of like the bones of Pastor Voth's dead dog.
Right.
And the dog died a long time ago. Carl did not kill a dog or anything like that, but
Right,
he's
right, right.
try, trying to make a point that if you treat us like savages, then we're going to act like it.
Right.
It's part of his resistance to the incursion of white culture onto the reservation.
Right.
So um, the monster bears witness to all of this, and he sees Carl hanging up these dream catchers, and he sees people being shocked and stunned by them, especially the fact that they're made from bones and things that are kind of horrific.
Right.
So the monster starts doing this, and he uses them as lures. He lures Felix out with the ring in the dream catcher, and he lures uh, T-Way's father Onway with a dream catcher, with his dead dog, and the imposter does not know what dream catchers are for. in some indigenous cultures, but he does know that people find them interesting and they physically walk up to them. So what better
Right.
way than to catch people with them?
Oh,
Yeah.
man, that's good. Yeah, I need a reread of Church Beneath the Roots because it's been a while, but yeah, I that's kind of coming back to me now. And yeah, what a great way to explain that where it's like, yeah, there was nothing like super magical about them. It was just kind of a way
Yeah.
for him to lure people out. And you mentioned I'm forgetting the main character's name.
Onway.
Onway, thank you.
Yes.
But when his dog, oh my God, that scene,
Oh yeah.
that I mean, you probably saw us talk about it in the episode, but that had to be one of the most horrific,
Yeah.
awful scenes I've ever had to sit through. Oh
Yeah.
my God, that made my stomach churn.
I felt
Uh,
bad, but it had to be done. I had greater
yeah.
plans for that dog, so
Oh, it was so good. It was so creepy and evil and amazing.
thank you. I
Um,
appreciate that.
well, I know you don't have too much more time.
I've got
Um,
about 15 minutes.
okay, okay, cool. So let's see. I would love to chat about for Church Beneath the Roots. At the end, he's taking them down to the place, um, underneath the whole like citadel kind of thing that we see at
Hmm.
the end there. And I'm forgetting. I'm sure everybody watching this remembers because they probably read the book more recently than I did. But what is he making them do down there? Why does he want them down there?
Yeah, I think so still in spoiler territory here, but
Yep.
I we the point of cosmic horror is that ultimately we just don't know everything that's going on.
Yeah.
Um, when you go deep into the mountain of Pale Peak, you find this labyrinthine network of caves and tunnels, and it's very confusing. And then it gives way to these very angular geometric hallways that were obviously crafted by somebody. We don't know if they were made by humans or by something else, but they're huge halls, and they all lead to there's a graveyard under there with like
Hmm.
sunken houses, and there's
Yeah.
on etched upon the tombstones is a language that nobody's ever seen. It's just a very weird experience. And then there's a building that they enter, and they have to crawl on their knees through this little like
Right.
vent shaft or something,
Yeah.
and it leads even further down to a vast, almost like an amphitheater sized room, like a chamber or an antechamber before a huge black wall. And we hear all about the black wall all throughout the
Hmm.
story. We don't know it's a physical place until we get there. But yeah, you get as far as the black wall. Um, and the imposter is just a servant of the thing that
Right.
lives behind the black wall.
Yeah.
Um, we don't know anything about it, but we do know that it's massive because it uses one of the characters as sort of like a physical puppet to talk to them at the entrance.
Yeah.
And it's got its hand shoved into this guy's body, and it's moving him around while it's talking to them. So that it's massive, whatever it is on the other side of that
Right.
wall.
Yeah.
Um, and it wants interesting people. It wants people like Faye and other people with all sorts of traumas and scary dreams. We don't know what it wants, but it wants them to come down there. And um, this is where the novel gets its name. The church beneath the roots. It's
Right.
all described in religious language,
Mm.
and there is a direct parallel between the church on the reservation and the church beneath the mountain. Um, so there's some sort of cosmic spirituality and beings that practice it that have lived here a lot longer than humans in the Colorado Rockies.
Right.
And so if you reread The Church Beneath the Roots, I would say just try to look for the parallels between the religious conflicts on the ground and the religion beneath the ground, because there's a lot of
Okay. Okay.
like through lines.
I'm gonna do a reread because I want to go back and kind of analyze this stuff a little bit more. 'Cause yeah, it's been a while. It's been a while.
Yeah, it's a
Um,
heady book. It's not an easy read, so I
sure.
apologize for that.
No, no, it's fantastic. There's something to be said about having a book that you learn new things on rereads.
Yeah,
Um, because Dresden Files is that way for me. Every time I go back to Dresden Files, I'm learning some new, like, oh, that was foreshadowing for that, and that kind of
yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
But I want to talk to you about kind of like Native American culture
Sure.
and just I have a great interest in it. A lot of my family is Native American, like a large part of my family is Native American,
Yeah,
and I've been to like powwows and stuff like that, and I've always just been super interested in the uh, kind of I hate to say like aesthetic, but the aesthetic
sure.
and just the kind of the culture of it. And so I was curious, you at the end of Stolen Tongues, you have a fantastic afterword that actually kind of like made me tear up a little bit, where you talked about wanting to you know do right for the story and actually like make sure that you were doing this in a way that was respectful to Native American culture and just out of a love for Native American culture. What was that like? Was that like a lot of research, and what kind of went
Yeah.
into that?
I um I was training to be a professional historian at the time.
Mm,
I was in graduate school. I was doing history. I was working on a PhD. And I chose not to finish the PhD. I actually left with the master's and went into tech because the job prospects were just so bad that I couldn't deny anymore that I probably didn't have much of a future in it.
mm,
Some of my cohort members did actually go on to land professorships, which is great, and I'm
mm.
super proud of them. But I wasn't doing a topic that was uh, thrilling enough to to land me the jobs that I wanted. So
Sure,
and there's a whole story behind the thing that happened that made me decide to change careers, which I think is an interesting story, but I'll tell it another time.
sure.
But you know, I grew up in Colorado. I was a white kid growing up in Colorado, and uh, Native history in Colorado is really embedded in the landscape of the Coloradian identity. And
Hmm.
you can physically drive to sites that were populated by indigenous cultures, and the ruins are still there. You can go to powwows. There are some tribes that invite people into them.
Hmm.
There are some reservations that stand still, and there are also communities that have high native populations. So this is something that's brought up in school a lot, and some people have native friends and things.
Yeah,
But I was in grade school, and so they were packaging native history in a very like magical, fun way, um, which is not native history at all
right.
in real life. So when I got into college, I was, when you study history, you experience like a softening of your views of other people. And I was particularly horrified by my studies of the Holocaust, and also what a lot of people argue was the Holocaust of indigenous people that happened here in North America and in South America. Um, and I was very moved by not just by the level of violence that they experienced, but also the way that we sort of whitewashed it in subsequent centuries and sold it to kids as like, well,
Yeah,
natives are these magical people that love nature.
yeah.
Um, and so I wanted to start my first book that I ended up publishing after Stolen Tongue. My first real project was In the Devil's Dreams, and it's about a Jewish Holocaust survivor.
Mm,
Um, Stolen Tongues was about two people who meet three indigenous characters. I like diversity and inclusion in my books, but some people disagreed with how I did it, and that's a whole thing that I could talk about too. But I just wanted to bring attention to native characters in fiction, And for better or worse, I absolutely fucking accomplished that goal because
Mm-hmm.
people, this topic now vitiates reviews of my books. Um,
Can I comment on this real quick?
yeah,
It was
sure.
something that I was thinking about the other day because I reread Stolen Tongues, and then I went on to Spotify and I went on to a couple other places where I was like, I just want to hear somebody else kind of put their thoughts out about this book, and maybe
Yeah.
I can come up with some really like interesting topics for the episode and stuff like that. So I listened to some people's reviews, and most people were like, it was so fucking scary. And then and then there was a couple of them that I came across that made me so unbelievably angry. When I say that I saw red, I cannot like encapsulate the feeling that was in my chest where I had to like stop somebody's podcast or stop somebody's video
Mm,
because there was some people that were criticizing it so hard about white man wrote story about Native Americans and
right, right.
how like that shouldn't happen. And I'm like,
Those,
it
by the way, are the same people who are complaining about white men writing only white male characters. So,
thank you. That is my point. Yes. That oh my God. It made me so upset because I'm like, you guys complain if a white guy writes a story about Vikings that
yes,
doesn't have, diversity in it. It's like it was Scandinavia in the like
yeah,
800s. Like, what are you talking about? Um,
right, yeah.
uh,
So,
so it's like there's that part of it, and then there's also like it's it's just frustrating because when you listen to or read your afterward and you can hear or see your passion for this subject and wanting to do it right and all of the research that you did for it, and as like a fan of yours, just like knowing that you did your due diligence, and also me, both of my sisters are Native American, both of
mm,
them are adopted, and I've also gotten to know like their wider biological family.
mhm.
And so I have a lot of Native Americans in my family that I'm very,
That's
very
awesome.
close with. And so obviously I'm just some white dude too, but having been to powwows and growing up with Native American sisters that were very much like in that culture on a regular basis, I'm like, this guy fucking nailed it. What are you guys talking about? Like, it made me so mad, Felix.
Oh, I appreciate that. Yeah. So, I mean, I think native rage is absolutely a real thing, and I think
Yeah,
it's totally justified.
sure.
I felt I'm not indigenous myself, and I felt fucking enraged by some of the shit that I learned when I was studying their histories. I mean,
Yeah,
it's insane, and that's why I wrote Church Beneath the Roots. Like, I wanted people to read the absolutely insane shit that
yes,
um, happened to them when they were corralled onto reservations and forcibly converted. Like, it's fucking nuts.
yeah,
Now that being said, uh, they are not a uniform group of people. They are many different cultures, and they
yes,
have different attitudes about how natives should be portrayed in fiction and in film,
yeah,
and their levels of representation in politics and who should represent them. Um,
mm,
they disagree with each other on this all the time because there are a bunch of different groups of people.
right.
And so, if you read the criticisms of Stolen Tongues, there are different groups of people with different opinions on how the book could have been improved. Some of them think that that non-indigenous authors should never ever write indigenous characters. Period. Um, I don't agree. I fundamentally disagree with those people.
Same,
But
because you look at a book like Brent Weeks's Night Angel trilogy, and you know, some of these people say like, oh well, if they don't have a lived experience with this thing, then they shouldn't write about it.
Right.
I'm sorry, but for some reason, I don't think Brent Weeks is a magical assassin. So does
Yeah.
that mean that he can't write about a magical assassin?
Right.
I'm
Yeah.
like,
So they, I think we're all writers right now are just part of this. What readers sometimes forget is that we are all part of the process of changing and updating fiction to
yeah,
meet modern expectations, and none of us is going to do it perfectly, and I certainly didn't. But I will say this in my own defense.
please.
When I grew up in a wealthy white community. There are probably zero natives at my high school.
Hmm.
Um, when I went to college, I went to college at an extreme liberal, actually a leftist humanities campus, extremely politically active, a long history of political activity. And I was told during my undergraduate years that diversity and inclusion are very, very important. And I was convinced of this by studying there and learning those arguments about why it's important. And it's not just important in in real life and on college campuses and in representation in government. It's also important in fiction. And I agreed with those arguments. So when I got into grad school and I started trying to express some of that inclusivity in my own writing, I was then told by some of these critics, no, you're doing it wrong, or no, you shouldn't do that at all. Um, so I was getting a whole lot of mixed messages, and what I realized is there's just lots of different groups of people with different opinions, and you cannot please them all.
Correct. Yeah.
So they've got church beneath the roots now, and I tried really hard to give them what they wanted based on their recommendations.
Sure.
But ultimately, I I don't know how anybody could read Stolen Tongues and think that I am a white supremacist or that like I wanted to harm native cultures or so. I mean
For
it's
sure.
absurd. But I do
Absolutely nuts.
appreciate the constructive feedback, and it helps. It's helped me grow a ton. So
Sure.
but yeah, it's been a painful process. My next book,
Yeah,
it's
let's
not
talk
about
about what
indigenous
you got
people.
coming up. I would love to hear about what you're doing next.
Well, I took a year off just for I've got some really difficult things going on in my family right now.
Sure.
But I started writing. I had some interesting ideas, and one of my critics once wrote to me and told me like, you're not a native. I don't want to read what you think native characters should be like, but I do know that you have an anxiety disorder, and I would love to read a book about your experience with anxiety.
Hmm.
And at that time, I was reading some of my old short stories, just thinking about what I wanted to do next. And I
Hmm.
found one that really is about my anxiety disorder.
Hmm.
Um, and I've got a really bad one. It's fucked up. I'm a very anxious person. Um, so I'm working on that now, and
Okay.
it's not going to offend anybody for the reasons that Stolen Tongues was offensive, but it's definitely a glimpse into the life of a person who's very anxious and always ruminating. You know,
Is it horror? Like, is there supernatural
yeah,
elements? Okay.
it's horror, it's supernatural, it's a tiny bit cosmic, like all of my books.
Okay.
There's a
Sweet.
cosmic background, but I'm a little worried right now that it's like not horror enough. There's a lot of like
Hmm.
drama and action in it, but I'm a little concerned people are gonna be like, this isn't scary. So we'll see.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I would love. I've been waiting, and maybe it's out there somewhere, and somebody will kind of recommend it to me. But I've been waiting for a book that's like a character with super high anxiety, that is just kind of going like crazy in their house, basically. Like,
Oh, you're gonna like this one. Yeah.
because like I read Anthony Kiedis's the lead singer of the Red Hot Chili
Chili
Peppers.
peppers.
Yeah, his I read his autobiography quite a few years ago now. And he's got this story in there where he had been high on coke for like months straight,
Wow.
and he was in his house and he kept seeing all of these shadow people and like
Yep.
helicopters that were going around his house and lights that would come in through his windows and stuff, but
Yeah.
none of it was there. And it was so he was just so like coked out that he was seeing all this. And I've heard similar stories from friends that had gotten clean from like methamphetamines and stuff like
Hmm.
that. And so I've always been interested in like a story where a character is just kind of like freaking out in their house, but add like a supernatural twist where it's not like someone coming off of coke or something, you know?
Yeah, I think I mean, what you're saying really resonates with me because one of my closest friends recovered from meth addiction and
Mm,
was always talking about shadow people.
yeah.
But you know, the experience of a bad anxiety disorder is very much like that. It's
Hmm.
not physical shadows, but it's like
Sure.
looming dread about things that might happen in the future. And
Yes.
let's just stay in a state of cat-like readiness now and prepare for those things
Right.
as if they are eventualities. You know, so this story is that
Okay.
with a lot of other stuff going on, and it's a it's an I think it has an anti-bullying through line.
Okay.
So it's kind of interesting. Yeah, a lot of
Interesting.
memories of my childhood and stuff. So,
Yeah. Very
but yeah,
cool.
if I'll write to you if I end up turning it
Yes.
into a book.
Yeah, that would be fantastic. Do you so are we you know with Church Beneath the Roots coming out, it kind of seemed like we were going into a larger series of these, maybe not like these specific characters, but kind of
Yeah.
figuring out what this supernatural entity is. Do you see yourself writing more books to kind of unravel that mystery a little bit more, or maybe to like revisit Felix and Faye in the future, or to revisit that mountain after the events of Stolen Tongues, or
Yeah, absolutely. So, what I referred to earlier as the Pale Peak mythos, which is
mm,
Stolen Tongues and Church Beneath the Roots, I definitely view that as like two stories in a larger
okay,
um,
cool,
scheme.
nice.
And the the one that I want to write, I think I have like 5 or 6 projects planned in my head. Like, oh, you know, someday I'll write that one. And they all have names, and 2 of them belong to the Pale Peak mythos.
Oh, cool.
Um, one of them takes place in the Amazon, and
Ooh,
one of them takes place in Canada, but they're all linked up to
yeah,
this.
I could see it going to the Amazon for sure. I could see
Yeah,
it being part of the like the Mayan people's kind of mythology and stuff like that, right?
yeah, all kinds of stuff like that. And I do want to write that book. I think that's going to be the scariest book I've ever written, just
Ooh,
based on my test runs of the short stories of it.
okay,
Um, but I'm taking a break from like the political stuff right now, just because
sure.
I don't know if emotionally I can handle the death threats and the
Yeah,
suicide wishes and stuff. You know,
right.
because I get those emails every once in a while, and they stick with you. You know.
Yeah,
But
yeah, for
yeah,
sure.
someday.
Yeah, well, let me know. I would love to, you know, if you ever want to send me a rough idea or something, I would love to check out some early versions or something. That'd be sick.
I might do that. Yeah, I've actually I've got a monster right now that I've been developing for the past couple of months that I think is the coolest monster I will ever create.
Oh,
Um,
cool.
yeah, I think he's way cooler than the imposter, and I think the imposter
Wow.
was pretty cool. So
Yeah,
I'll let you
for
know if I
sure.
finish him.
For sure. Well, Felix, thank you so much for joining me today. Sincerely, like I loved talking to you. You're a super cool guy, and I'm just such a big fan of your books. They're so amazing. I can't say enough good things about them.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, it was great talking with you. Great questions.
Great. Well, maybe we'll have you back on when the next book comes out or something. But until that time, everybody, thank you so much for hanging out with us. We are going to wrap it up there for today. Remember that down in the description you can find links to Felix's works. I will make sure that I have those down there for you. You'll also find links to our Twitter and Discord where you can kind of join our community and everybody kind of chats about books and stuff. You know the drill. But also, you can join our Patreon, and that again is where you can watch these episodes live as we record them. You can talk to authors as we have them on, all that good stuff. So go check out Patreon if you want those perks. But until next time, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye, everybody.